in our pandemic response, but it's far from being perfect. But the results, as we can see today, we have greater than almost 93% recovery rate. We have maintained our relatively low active cases, and the many gains that we have accomplished over the past several months, and we intend to build further on these gains. And so even with the threat of new variants being confronted, or rather confronting nations, and we are no exception. Sabi nga po nila, it's not a question kung darating dito, it is going to perhaps really reach the shores, but it's a question of when. But again, all of the systems are in place, Mr. President, so we hope that we can manage this, Mr. President.
You know, if true that there is a variant new and it is now wreaking havoc on the lives of people, one of the countries I think that has imposed a lockdown again is France. Kaya gusto kong malaman sa inyo, kung magdating dito, are we going to impose another lockdown until we find out what we can do? From the medical, we invited guests. Can somebody, so that we can prepare actually, I'm making some projections. I hope that it would not reach the Philippines. I pray and I hope. But I said, make some projections. Sabi mo, it's not a matter of whether or not it would reach the Philippines. It will, until we decide to close the country. But that is not possible. And so now, kung magdating itong kung bagong variant dito, should we go back to the lockdowns again? Yeah, General Galvez, what do you say?
Sir, I believe we must apply some proactive measures, particularly on DFA, that they will have an advisory, particularly UK, that most of our kababayan there should not go home because they will be having yung 14 days quarantine. Maybe also we also discourage muna from the Europe area through maybe also with the DOTR that all passenger airlines should have a more stringent border control in terms of the identities of the passengers coming into the Philippines. Particularly, dapat sir mabigyan natin ng instructions sir, yung mga recommend ko po kay Secretary Tucade to give instructions to the different airlines coming from Europe na talagang busisiin po yung kanilang mga passport na baka mamaya doon sila nanggaling sa UK. And maybe yung DFA po sir, they have some sort of advisory na those people na mga kababayan natin sa UK for the meantime, considering of the incidence of the mutation of new variant, na dapat i-discourage po natin na wag muna sir bumalik dito sa Pilipinas. And then also tama po kayo sir na dapat magkaroon tayo ng active surveillance through the LGU, dahil hindi po natin alam na ang nagkaroon lang tayo ng tinatawag nating order was only last December 23. Baka hindi po natin alam na may nakapasok na po nung mga naunang mga buwan. And we should have some sort of discrete investigation using also yung ating armed forces at yung PNP na baka may mga balikbayan na galing ng UK na nandun na po sa mga areas. So we need really to have yung active surveillance, lalo na po yung mga nakadating po dito. Based po sa text po ni Sec Liling na nandun po sa Singapore yung kanyang anak, meron na pong isang identified na strain sa Singapore. And it was already confirmed sa anak po ni Sec Liling na nandun po. So maybe ang mangyayari din po, yung mga ibang countries like Japan na meron ng 5 ngayon, it may happen na talagang po natin. Ang isang po natin na pwede po natin gawin po, sir, is talagang mag-designate tayo ng quarantine, special quarantine area for those who will be later identified na para po talaga ma-isolate natin mabuti. Kasi yun po, time will come talaga na Mr. President, na baka magkaroon po talaga ng strain dito. We should be prepared kung saan po natin ilalagay yung mga tao po na para ma-isolate po natin sila lahat. So yun lang po, mahal Pangulo.
Mr. President, can I make a comment, sir? On your question, sir, if we had to tighten the lockdown, I think the IETF should put a threshold kung ilan yung araw-araw na lumalabas na, no, then we may be able to, we might enforce again a tighter lockdown, sir. Kailangan may threshold tayo. Kung bababa lang siya ng 2,000 below, or even 3,000 siguro. But it will be the IETF siguro, Secretary Doke, no? Mag-usap tayo para a threshold para automatic lockdown tayo. Thank you, sir.
Well, actually, yung lockdown is a possibility. I said we are making some projections. But if the severity in numbers would demand that we take corrective measures immediately, then we'll just have to go back to the lockdown. Pagka lumami sila with the new strain, then in the meantime that we are not able to confront them effectively, I mean the virus, we'll just have to, tama yan, it depends on the severity in number. Kasi pagka marami na, and we do not have the antidote of how to kill those variants, we have a problem there. And of course, we would also be hard-pressed on looking for the money, for the expenses. In the meantime, magastos yan. Yes, John, you.
Yes. As of now, Mr. President, our situation in the country is manageable if we are just talking on the local COVID situation. What we have really to guard or to watch out is the international borders because the variants or the new strain is coming from those identified countries. Kung mapapantayan po natin yung ating international ports, kung po pwede, maimbudo natin sila sa 1 or 2 international ports lang. And tulad po na sabi ni Secretary Galvez, ready tayo sa quarantine facilities. Then we can isolate yung situation on the local and find if there is anyone who is able to pass through, yun po yung hanapin natin. Right now, there's no necessity to call for a lockdown, but probably more on controlling the flow from the international. If ever, probably we may not have to declare lockdown in the country, but we may have to close the border if there is a real situation that would occur later on. So, for the quarantine naman, sir, we'll make sure that the LGUs will see to it that anyone who gets contact with a person coming from UK or from the 4 countries enumerated, i-quarantine po sila kahit home quarantine just to ensure na hindi sila makagalaw. That way, I think we can control the situation.
Mr. President,
Yes, Secretary Dugade.
thank you very much, Mayor President. Noong hong naglabas ng protocol at guideline ng IATF saka ang DOH. Nag-zero in ho tayo sa UK. From December 22 hanggang ngayon, zero in tayo sa UK. Nung naglabas ho ang IATF ng protocol, rinivisit and strengthen namin sa DOTR yung tinatawag ho namin na one-stop shop sa pamunuhan ng OTS, Office of Transport Security, si General Raul Del Rosario. Kaya nga ba't nung December 22, nalaman namin na ang pumasok from UK 2 pasahero. December 23, 54 passengers. December 24, 6 passengers. December 25, 17 passengers. Sa kabuuan, meron hong suma total, gaya ng report ni Secretary Duque, 79 passengers. Out of the 79 passengers, nanggaling ho yan, 72 nanggaling sa NAIA. 7 lang ho yung sa Clark. Doon ho sa 79, 2 ho yung umuwi, mag-asawa. Ibig sabihin, pumasok ng Maynila, hindi na nagtagal, using the same flight sa Emirates, bumalik sa London kasi yung asawa na Brit ayaw pumunta sa Clark. Isa lang ho ang positive so far at inaantay yung resulta natin sa mga 23 passengers. Ang ibig kong sabihin lang ho is, nagsisiro in tayo sa UK. Yung report kanina ho ni Secretary Duque, parang nasasabi niya na kailangan lawakan natin ng konti yung pagsipat natin ng mga pasaherong hindi lang nanggagaling sa UK, tignan din natin yung ibang bansa na kung saan meron na yung bagong strain ng COVID. Kasi yung bagong strain ng COVID ay mabilis yung kontaminasyon at mas malawak. Having said this, Mr. President, siguro importante at bigyan tugon at pansin natin short of or in preparation of lockdown, yung rekomendasyon ni Secretary Duque kanina, nasilipin natin yung ibang lugar na kung saan meron itong bagong strain ng COVID. Nandiyan yung Australia, nandiyan yung Singapore, hindi ko maalala yung ibang lugar. Siguro dapat tignan na yan. Kailangan ho, mapalawak natin yung Bureau of Quarantine, yung Department of Health sa airport with the one-stop shop. Ginawa ho natin sa UK yan, gagawin natin sa pagdinagdag pa yung ibang lugar. Meron lang ho akong katanungan na gusto kong tanungin sa ating mga medical experts. Klaro ho, Mr. President, na pag ang pasahero galing sa loob ng bansa na merong strain, klaro ho na meron kang stringent quarantine protocols. Imagine natin at isipin natin na lahat yung nagbabiyahe, minsan hindi ho direct flight, meron yung tinatawag na transit. Ibig sabihin ho, dumaan lang doon. 2 klase ho yung transit. Yung transit ho, pumunta sa airport, inantay yung connecting flight, pero galing sa lugar na merong new COVID-19 strain. Tanong, gaano katagal sila dapat sa airport bago mo impose yung strict quarantine? Ito ho yung nasa airport lang. Pangalawa na gusto kong tanungin sa medical experts is, will the rules be the same if ang stopover mo or transit mo may kasamang layover? Ibig sabihin natulog sa lugar, dun sa lugar, at kinuha yung connecting flight. Ano yung protocol at requirements na gagawin natin dyan? Magkaiba ho yan kasi yung strain na sinasabi ho nila, Mr. Mayor, President, Sir, is malawak ang contamination at mabilis. So, klaro, pag galing ka sa isang lugar at doon ka nagmula, how will you treat the transient passengers now? Considering that there are 2 kinds of transiting passengers, one that waits for their flight in the airport, and how long will this be allowed or tolerated? And the other is transiting, merong layover. Ibig sabihin, natulog sa hotel yan bago kinuha yung connection. I'd like to get the views of the medical experts because their
Yan ang
opinion...
sinabi ko kanina, Art.
Sir?
Yan ang sinabi ko kanina.
Opo. Gusto ko pong marinig sa kanila ano yung opinion para mag-guide din kami how to address these transiting passengers coming from countries where there is a strain. Considering that the strain is, again, in the words of the medical expert, deeply and widely contaminatable. Ano ho dapat yung patakaran natin dyan?
Well, we should ask the medical guys.
Mr. President, with your permission, we would like to recognize Dr. Isa Aliandria of the Technical Advisory Group of IATF. Ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening po, Mr. President. Regarding the question of Secretary Tugade, napag-agreean po namin mga experts, medical experts, that with regards to the travelers coming from any country with the reported UK variant, whether transit or coming directly, the quarantine will remain as 14 days. It's strict implementation of 14 days. And regardless actually of whether we're dealing with a variant or a mutation or the regular COVID-19, the quarantine, duration of quarantine remains at 14 days. We need to strictly implement the 14 days. Siguro we would like to also to clarify, no, the mode of transmission remains the same, respiratory droplet, and this virus, we expect the mutations. So to impose a lockdown or travel restriction will not be sustainable in the long run. So kailangan pa rin po yung implementation ng minimum public health standards, face mask, face shield, as discussed earlier, cough etiquette, hand washing, air circulation, then yung quarantine. Whether there is a mutation or not, these are still the standards that have to be implemented. And this virus also, yung variant po, there is no evidence at this time or data that shows that it causes the more severe form or it's more virulent. Mas mabilis lang yung transmission pero hindi siya nagkakos ng mas severe disease that will cause critical form of the disease or more hospitalizations. Sa ngayon, hindi pa yon nakikita. Mas mabilis lang ang transmission kasi nag-mutate nga doon sa protein kung saan yun yung nag-a-attach sa virus sa loob ng katawan. So yun po yun. Kaya we expect the mutations to come kasi that's the natural evolution kasi ng virus. It's their way of survival. As they replicate, they mutate. But not all mutations are significant. So far, di ba, last July, yung first mutation, yung D614G, na pumasok na sa atin yun. Kaya nagkaroon tayo ng surge noong August. And then this time, we're trying to prevent the entry of the UK variant. And tama po yung ginagawa natin ngayon na we're restricting travelers coming from UK, and we also need to check on other travelers coming from other countries where the variant is also reported. Kaya may plans po ng surveillance, biosurveillance ang Philippine Genome Center, RITM, NIH together with DOH para ma-monitor natin yung mga pumapasok na variant. So we need to strengthen the biosurveillance system so that we are on top of the situation. No? Aware tayo na may pumapasok na variants. And these variants are important to be monitored kasi may impact din sa vaccines, sa efficacy ng vaccines natin or effectiveness ng vaccines eventually. So in the moving forward, kailangan ma-set up or ma-strengthen yung biosurveillance system. And para malaman natin kung meron ng UK variant dito, yung November-December samples natin ay i-analyze ng Philippine Genome Center and RITM. Yun po, Mr. President.
Mr. President, sir. Number one is a clarification. So I take it then that whether you come from the city or state where there is a new strain, or from the airport lang taking a transient character, strict. That is for passenger at para sa tao. Ang tatanungin ko lang ho, kasi transport ako, what will be the rules for cargos? Kasi gaya nung meeting natin noon, kung may transmission sa cargos, will the rule of the game be the same with people and cargo? I'd like to listen with the permission of the Mayor President with the medical experts.
Let me go back to itong transit. Some are taking flights and then connecting. Kung wala ng iba, there are countries whose airline make flights to the Philippines. Ang iba naman talagang layover. He has to spend the night there. Alam mo, ang tingin ko dyan, whether or not it is a transit situation or a layover, para sa akin, it's the same. The virus is carried by people, and baski na doon sa sinasabi natin na transit, they have to deal with people whether they like it or not. They have to go out and go to the counter and talk to people. So ang virus, whether in transit or just a connecting flight for the following day, ganun rin na ano eh. So I think that yung response natin should really be, we consider them as one. We love them as one. Now, itong sinabi mo, naunahan mo lang ako, I'd like to ask Secretary Duque and DOST, nandito ba si... I would like them to, or government itself, the offices, should create another task force. Hindi itong atin, wala man tayong alam dyan, medical. Ideally, it's the medical persons na nakatutok lang talaga dyan sa bagong strain, whether or not it is here or not, and whether it is as virulent as itong sabi naman ni doktora, hindi masyado, it's not as toxic as itong si COVID-19, si original yung tatay. But I think that we should not really be complacent about it. We should treat them as a deadly disease that would be entering the Philippines. Mahirap kasi ang tayo, whether or not itong ano na ito is as virulent or as toxic as COVID-19. So yung tanong mo, para sa akin pareho. The contact is there. The possibility of contact is there. Because you have to talk to people. And in the transit, there are a lot of locals also there working, the policemen, the security guards are there. And while waiting, I said, they are in a room that maybe somebody somehow would pass it on to a Filipino coming home. Let's go back to your maya na lang, tapusin mo natin ito. How about the cargo that are contaminated?
Klaro po, Mr. Mayor President, sa tao, how to deal with them, either coming directly from the state or from the airport, trato. Gusto kong malaman sa medical expert, paano natin ititreat yung cargo? Kung especially if this virus is mabilis makakontaminate, para apektado ho ba yung cargo? Para mag-guide kami sa pakikipag-usap namin sa mga airlines, sa airport operators, sa cargo. Noon po, yung COVID-19, sabi natin, transmission, animal sa tao, tao sa tao, question yung cargo. Hanggang after a while, na klaro na cargo becomes a contaminating platform. Dito ho sa bagong strain na to, kung it becomes a contaminating platform at mabilis maka-spread, kailangan ho bang maging mas strict ako sa cargo ngayon sa mga pumapasok sa airport or sa aduana, considering that this new strain is very contaminating.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if I may, the existing disinfection protocols must be followed, and pagpatuloy nyo lang yon. And I think it's going to be safe enough. If you want to double the disinfection process, it will not harm, it will only do good. So whatever you have done, you can just, perhaps ramp it up a little bit more.
Third po na ginagawa ngayon, yung spraying, yung kwanis, sufficient na ngayon yon.
Tama po kayo. Yung ginagamit lang po dyan ay chlorine-based disinfecting chemical.
Why, Art, is there no fumigation being done? Fumigate.
Sir, nung nag-umpisa yung COVID sa mga airport, sa mga pier, meron ho yung spray contamination sa mga cargo eh. Ngayon ho, tinatanong ko, because of the nature of the new strain, will there be a need to put stronger contaminating spray or, I want to hear from them so that we will know how we can react and deal with the airlines and the port operators.
Well, if they are potential carriers of the strain, even baggages, that is your problem. Try to find a solution for that. Fumigation or whatever, spraying, that would fall under your worry.
Kasi po, yung isang pwede natin gawin, Secretary Duque and Mr. President, sir, remember, mandatory quarantine itong mga pasahero. Huwag natin pabit-bit yung bagahe nila papunta sa Kwan. Kunin yung bagahe, or you can do a process there. Pagtapos na yung quarantine nila. Para nang sa ganon, nakahold din yung cargo. Hindi naman kailangan isama nila dun sa kunyan. And unless yung mga hand carry na may essentials. I don't know.
But that is a good
Again, it depends on the depth and extent of the contamination of the new strain.
That is a good suggestion. Not even a suggestion. That is a good plan, actually. Prohibit them from carrying the cargo. But that is an added burden to sa inyo. But they have to be...
Actually, sir, I think Secretary Bello will confirm this. Tumatagal yung proseso sa airport kasi kinukuha nila yung bagahe, dinadala kung saan sila makakwarantinang hotel. Baka mas maganda niyan, yung hand carry lang nila, ang dadali nila, carrying some essentials, maiwan yung ibang kargamento that will also facilitate the movement inside the airport, while you put additional quarantine precaution to the cargo as they are doing their mandatory quarantine. This is an off-the-cuff, knee-jerk reaction to the discussion.
Mr. President, we have the expert back to Dr. Alejandria for her comment to the issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
With all due respect po, we don't need to quarantine din po yung baggage and cargo. The usual standard disinfection procedures would suffice whether there is a mutation or not. No? Kasi ang transmission pa rin po, the main driver of transmission is respiratory droplet. Pag umubo, talking loudly, singing loudly, close distance, yun. That's when the droplets are spread and enter the body. So it's not necessary to quarantine the cargo. So the usual disinfection measures using chlorine would suffice.
There is, what you would really want to say is that there is no scientific, hard scientific finding that itong inanimate things can be carriers of the disease.
Yeah. Yes po.
Mr. President.
Secretary Roque, ano?
Sir, Mayor, bago lang po magtanong pa tayo sa mga technical experts, nag-text lang po si Secretary Leonardo Briones, and I will quote, "We will implement the President's instructions to recall limited face-to-face classes in the light of recent development," end quote. So, hindi raw po nila itutuloy na yung face-to-face pilot. No? At ang pangalawang punto ko lang po, napansin ko po, walang mga taga-economic team natin dito, but I think if some of them were here, they will say, na yung tayo po yung nag-lockdown, it was really to prepare our healthcare system. So siguro po, if we are sure that this will become more virulent, although mababa po ngayon ang ating occupancy rate pagdating po sa ating mga isolation facilities, sa ating mga ward beds, sa ating mga ICU beds, maybe we should now take steps to even add more, no? Miski mababa pa po yung utilization natin, just in case talaga nga pong napaka-virulent itong bagong strain. Maraming salamat po.
Yes, Secretary Lugar.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, para lang maintindihan natin to, Mr. President, it seems like what the experts are saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, yung mutation lang ng virus is the mutation made the virus stickier lang. Right? Because you're saying yung characteristic ng virus na kumapit is now stickier. Is that what the experts are saying? That's why tumaas ang virulence niya because of yung pagdikit niya sa mga cells ng tao is because nandun yung protein that made it stickier. Ganun ba yun?
Mr. President, if I may, the current strain that has been the subject of our discussions has not been proven to have increased virulence. Only increase in transmissibility. Mabilis lang maghawa. But the virulence or the extent, the pathogenicity is the same, basically, with our current strain. So, hindi naman siya mas gumrabe o mas serious yung kanyang sakit na idinudulot. Mas mabilis lang po. So, mas mabilis lang siyang makahawa.
Pero meron dito, I think we are updated well. Spain, the government reported the first confirmed the variant of cargo. Pumasok talaga doon. Despite of their, they were once closing the border also. Takot yung mga so let's do it this way. We will assume, as it will really happen, we will assume that the new strain will arrive in the Philippines. We cannot, unless I said you close the country, papasok talaga yan. So let us proceed on that premise that this strain will, that's why I said it task force, so that we would be advised immediately or in advance. Papasok yan dito. So ang ating ano ngayon is, yun ang yung quarantine, tapos sabi ni ma'am, doktora na, yung namang hindi naman dumedicate sa inanimate things. So, sa bagay, hindi magdikit. It will not thrive. It will die if it sticks to the cargo. And kung may fumigation dyan, Art, sa iyo, fumigate lang. If you burst of itong whatever chemical that's appropriate for the cleansing of the cargo, bilisan mo lang yung just for good measure. That's about it. For good measure, let us do it. Now, Secretary Bello, something to say? Ikaw yung pinakamaraming kliyente dyan eh. Yung OFW.
Yes, Mr. President.
They come in numbers.
I was also toying with the idea na kasi ang ATF resolution is to prevent the entry of foreigners coming from UK at inaalaw yung mga OFWs. I think, Mr. President, it is also good to consider na isama na rin sa restriction even yung mga OFWs natin. Kasi it is reported by our labor attachés, Mr. President, that some of our OFWs, especially in UK, have been contaminated by this variant COVID-19, Mr. President.
No wonder. It's very natural. If you are in a community that is affected by this if a community is affected and you are there, naturally, if there are Filipino nurses, most of them, they are connected with the medical profession. Ganun rin ang mangyari. So, whether or not they would eventually, they would come home and bring we cannot escape that. I avoid the idea of, hindi mo pauwiin. As long as doon sa place of departure, they are tested. Perhaps when they come home, tested again and quarantined. If that is really the purpose of the government. I would not agree with the idea of disallowing Filipinos to come home. Mahirap yan. Unless we can prove that he is contaminated. But if the test shows from the place of departure, pati dito, at the same protocol naman yan, swabbing pati, and they are quarantined. At least, sigurado. Akin ang my take is Filipinos coming home will just have to gamble. We have to gamble that hopefully that they are not the carrier. But yung British foreigners, gusto ko sila huwag munang pumasok. Kung mahawa lang naman tayo, Pilipino, por mahawa tayo ng puti, that is a disaster. So,
Mr. President,
sarado talaga ang
ang
Pilipinas.
problema kasi, Mr. President, yung mga manggagaling sa UK and in other parts of Europe, ito yung mga magbabakasyon lang, Mr. President. Hindi ito yung mga displaced because of COVID-19. Kasi karamihan ng mga OFWs natin who were displaced because of COVID-19 opted to stay because they're enjoying yung kanilang insurance benefits. Ang insurance benefits kasi ng mga workers in Europe is more than 1 year. Hindi kagaya sa atin dito na 2 months lang. Doon ang unemployment insurance ng mga workers is 14 months. Kaya they can afford to stay and wait for the possibility of going back to normalcy. Kaya karamihan ng mga uwi going from UK are for vacation, Mr. President. Kaya kung yun ang purpose lang naman nila, wag na natin na lang sila pauwiin. And by the way, Mr. President, kukunti lang naman yung manggagaling dyan sa UK and other parts of Europe. Karamihan ng mga nare-repatriate ni Secretary Tugade, manumbering from 1,500 to 3,000 a day, galing ito sa Asia and the Middle East countries, Mr. President. Kaya yung mga
Mr.
sa
President,
Europe,
Hanggang ngayon ba the numbers are steady? You have the average Filipinos.
Mr. Mayor President, we can submit those numbers. I don't have them now, but I can submit it first hour, even tomorrow, Sunday. I can give it.
No need. I just want to know because the experts are here.
Mr. President,
After our discussion, we'll ask them.
Opo.
Ang pasok ba ng ano is may ano ka, may numbers ka that's pareho lang. Ano, the volume.
The one-stop shop is doing this on a regular basis, Your Honor.
Mr. President, may you
Yes.
back in, please, sir? Yes, sir, I have here the record of arrivals from December 21. December 21, 1,477. December 22, 1,411. December 23, 19. December 24, 14. And yesterday, 968. So we are hovering between 1,500 to up to below 2,000, Mr. President, for the OFWs.
We have the may average ka.
I think it's about 1,500, sir.
No, meron tayong cap set. Nasa 4,500 ngayon. And we are planning to increase that, Mr. Mayor President, by the end, but the start of January to 5,000 if IATF will confirm those numbers. May cap ho tayo dyan.
I hate to do this, but can we suspend this meeting for just about 30 minutes so that we can eat? I think the food is there. Mine was brought here. Session suspended. You guys, you get your food. I don't know where. Saan ba pagkain?